Open up layer by layer your joy and grief to become so vulnerable. How much is too much? To become so vulnerable, almost naked in your purity. How much is too much on this day when spring begins? I would now, मुकुल प्लीज़ आप आएँ. हम आपको ये प्रेरोगेटिव दे रहे हैं कि मुकुल से हम आज अपना इस सेशन को स्टार्ट करेंगे. मुझे लगता है कि मुकुल अकेले पड़ गए हैं तो हमें इनको ज़्यादा तवज्जो देनी चाहिए. मुकुल आइए. मुकुल इज़ अ वेरी सीनियर रेलवे ऑफिसर. ही इज़ फ्रॉम द सिविल सर्विसेज. मुकुल को सुनना अपने आप में एक उपलब्धि थी. मैंने इनको साउथ एशियन फुटसॉल फेस्टिवल में सुना था और तब मैंने कहा था कि एक दिन बहुत जल्दी हम आपको अपने सेंटर पे बुलाएंगे. तो मैं शुरुआत मुकुल से कर रही हूँ. मुकुल पहले अपनी रचनाएं सुनाएंगे.
Good afternoon to you all. At the outset, let me extend my heartfelt thanks to Sangeeta Gupta ma'am for gifting me such fulfilling moments amidst the din of a very hectic schedule. I'm grateful to ma'am for liking my poetry that day in that South Asian festival. So my first two poems are driven by the legend of Sisyphus. Sisyphus, you must be knowing, a Greek legend, and it is the name of the king of Corinth. And he was condemned to the punishment in the underworld to push a boulder up every time it rolled down on a continuous basis, day in and day out. And in literature and philosophy, this legend has been used as a symbol of a futility of human existence, meaninglessness of life. But unlike Albert Camus, I assume Sisyphus to be unhappy, celebrating art as the redeemer of Sisyphus. How art rescues you out of that sense of futility of human existence or sense of meaninglessness. So as a poet, I have, very palpably felt this, I have undergone this experience, gone through this experience. So these two poems are basically driven by the legend of Sisyphus. The first poem is Sisyphus Anticipates Redemption. So this is the quest for freedom. This poem brings out the quest for freedom. Sisyphus anticipates redemption. The stubble looks luminous in the mirror. The stubble looks luminous in the mirror. It suddenly caught my fancy as I am poised for my morning shave. The night could optimally burn every dayness to ashes. The night could optimally burn every dayness to ashes. Darkness could illuminate the dreams to their proverbial radiance. Darkness could illuminate the dreams to their proverbial radiance. I decide not to consign the stubble to the conduit of captivity. I decide not to consign the stubble to the conduit of captivity throughout the day. Throughout the day, I bask in this luminosity. I bask in this luminosity, the radiance of rebellion, the fervor of fortitude for freedom. Ruggedness might be resurrective. Ruggedness might be resurrective. Sisyphus anticipates the redemption. The second poem that is driven by the legend of Sisyphus, the redemption of Sisyphus. Actually, it is the quest for that artistic sensibility that I feel as a poet many a time rescues me out of that, state of despair. The redemption of Sisyphus. Ma'am was also talking about that artistic sensibility, so I think it is another picture of that. The silence speaks. The silence speaks, the stillness moves, the severance from reality. The severance from reality is the swing into fantasy where solitude finds the company of the bluebirds. The severance from reality is the swing into fantasy where solitude finds the company of the bluebirds, a redeeming escape from the Sisyphus within. A redeeming escape from the Sisyphus within. The cherubs find an instant echo with my soul as I am emboweled in a togetherness sweet and serene when the mind unburdens the image of porcupines huddled together to escape the fate of annihilation. When the mind unburdens the image of the porcupines huddled together to escape the fate of annihilation, I manage to live. I manage to live on the hope of this life from the death of reality. My next two poems explore the contrasting themes. That is the beauty of art. It can be equally convincing in two contrasting, contexts. So the first poem celebrates night, and the second poem celebrates morning, upholding dawn to be the symbol of hope and a new journey. And the second poem is in Hindi, because it is my latest fancy. I translated my first novel, which was published by Rupa in 2016 into Hindi, and I myself translated it, and that triggered Hindi in me, and somehow, but such luminaries of Hindi are sitting here, so I am now feeling a little shy in reciting this poem. But anyway, the first poem is in English, that celebrates night. The sad extinguishment of my darkness. It is titled The Sad Extinguishment of My Darkness. This is oxymoron, no, but the darkness getting extinguished. It is a slit in a seal. It is a slit in a seal. The wound in the curtain is stark. The wound in the curtain is stark. The disfigured darkness looms macabre. The disfigured darkness looms macabre. The silence sounds spectral. It is a losing battle. It's a losing battle. The eyes also are giving into sun. The eyes are also giving into sun. Wiping the smears from my darkness is now beyond. The wiping the smears from my darkness is now beyond. It was passionately concocted. It was passionately concocted, the purgative for the phobias and phantoms, trials and tribulations, frets and fumes. The purgative for the phobias and phantoms, trials and tribulations, frets and fumes, I exhaled throughout the night. I exhaled throughout the night. Slain, I rise from the bed. Slain, I rise from the bed, draw the curtain. The funeral flames fill the room. The funeral flames fill the room as darkness breathes its last into me. Now another poem, as I said, celebrates dawn, treating it to be a symbol of like hope and joy. एतबार है तो इंतज़ार है, मैं सूर्योदय के कायल हूँ. मैं सूर्योदय का कायल हूँ, पूरब क्षितिज की स्वर्णिम लालिमा, उगते सूरज की प्रज्वलित शीतलता. उगते सूरज की प्रज्वलित शीतलता, प्रकृति में लौटता हुआ अद्वितीय रंग. प्रकृति में लौटता हुआ अद्वितीय रंग, भोर का नवीनता से श्रृंगार, इसके प्रतिबिंब से आप्लावित होता हुआ मेरा अस्तित्व. इस शाश्वत की महिमा में लय, सतत सम्मोहक सनातन, इसकी प्रतिध्वनि से झंकृत होती हुई मेरी सुषुप्त चेतना. इसकी प्रतिध्वनि से झंकृत होती हुई मेरी सुषुप्त चेतना, उम्मीद की राख हो चलती अंगार. उम्मीद की राख हो चलती अंगार, नई ऊर्जा का संचार, नए कूच की झंकार, नवीकृत हो उठती मेरी शख्सियत, रुमानी हो उठती ये रोज़ानियत. नवीकृत हो उठती मेरी शख्सियत, रुमानी हो उठती ये रोज़ानियत. पर आज सूर्योदय क्यों नहीं हुआ? पर आज सूर्योदय क्यों नहीं हुआ? न वो प्रतिबिंब, न प्रतिध्वनि, न ही वो नवीनता. अब ये सताती हुई स्तब्धता, बुझती हुई राख, ये फैलता हुआ गहराता अंधेरा, बोझिल होता हुआ मेरा वजूद, थमे हुए मेरी कदम, एक रुकी हुई यात्रा. फिर आज सुबह से शाम हो चली, मेरा सूरज नहीं निकला. सुबह शाम तमाम होती रहीं, सूर्योदय का इंतज़ार ख़त्म न हुआ. अब पश्चिम क्षितिज को मेरी डूबती निगाहें निहारती रहती हैं, मेरे गुमशुदा सूरज को तलाशते हुए. पर मेरी भोर को सूरज का अब भी इंतज़ार है, क्योंकि एतबार है तो इंतज़ार है, क्योंकि एतबार है तो इंतज़ार है.
आपने सबका दिल जीत लिया हिंदी में पढ़ के. ये आपको ये पता है कैसे दिल जीता जाता है. कैन आई इनवाइट रचना प्लीज? रचना जोशी has worked with India International Center as an editor for almost 28 years, and Rachna has been coming to this center many a time. My advantage of having this center is I have made many new friends.
So the first poem is called Kilmoras and Hisalus. It's about my paternal family house in Mussoorie, where all of us cousins used to go every summer for holidays. The house was called Fern Lodge, but Kilmoras and Hisalus are Himalayan berries that grow in the mountains, which we used to eat. Eating Kilmoras and Hisalus on the way to Nala Pani, past the old brewery and Sikandar Hall. fern lodge perched atop a hillside with peach and plum trees trailing along a slope. Below the cowshed where the gwala comes to milk the cows and to keep encroachers at bay who are creeping up the hillside. Barloganj market with Chaman Lala's shop and the school children from St. George's coming for tuck. Chachi and Buaji in the kitchen on stilts churning out pots of soup. The old piano in the drawing room with children like to play. Patties and pastries in the evening. Grandpa's green fingers in the nursery where there were fuchsias and begonias as well as a beehive, hydrangeas in the garden. The second poem that I have written is about Nagaland, where I spent 3 years of my childhood, and it's called Picnic in Kohima. School children from Little Flower School, Kohima, went to the river for a picnic. The neck of a chicken was wrung and khichdi was made on a stove. Everyone laughing and joking, oblivious to the trouble around. Played table tennis in school, how bananas was a bad word, and learnt about menstruation. Diet of boiled eggs and fainting at the march past. Konama village nestling in the mountains, home to some of the oldest Naga tribes. Then the third poem that I'll read is called Online Travels, and that is really about how these days every writer or poet almost has to have a digital presence. Online travels, connecting through the internet at poetry webinars and spiritual meetings. Was it the pandemic that made us explore all these outlets and become digital savvy? Poetry readings and translation workshops, book clubs and online discussions. What about ChatGPT? Can AI really help us write poetry, or do we need the human touch?
Dear friends, now I would invite Seema Jain. Seema has come from Punjab. Neeta has come from Bombay. You will hear her very soon. After the poetry reading, we have a singing session. So let's, celebrate this bonding, which is across not only this country. This collaboration is from US. Sunil bhai, and it was his brainchild. He told me that, why don't you do this? I said, I am too preoccupied, सांस लेने का टाइम नहीं. बोले नहीं, करना ही है. मैंने कहा अच्छा चलिए मैं करूँगी. बट हो गया है, और इसमें एक एक जो यहाँ बैठा हुआ है उसका कंट्रीब्यूशन है. इट्स नॉट माई डूइंग. It's the collective consciousness of all of us, and I salute that. Seema, please आइए.
So, very good evening, dear friends. It's indeed a privilege and an honor to be a part of this eminent galaxy of poets here, and I'm thankful to Sangeeta Gupta ji and Prithvi Art and Cultural Center for giving me this opportunity. So, my first poem today is about women. And the title of the poem is Icebergs. Icebergs. It takes them thousands of years to be formed. Some icebergs are artifacts, cleverly crafted. Centuries of accumulation made them solid and invincible. It takes another century to nudge the icebergs a little, to shift and melt them gradually, bit by bit. But as thousands of sparrows can cover the sky with their wings and alter the direction of the winds, mountains can be moved, the sky can be conquered, if there is fire in the heart and iron in the soul. Centuries of icebergs of customs and rituals enslave half the world's populace. Single protest isn't enough, but each moment's mutiny, day in and day out, from womb to birth, from home to school, from the food she eats, to the clothes she wears, to the thoughts she holds, to the jobs she seeks. Each moment she lives to melt the icebergs a little. Thank you. My second poem is titled The Mahatma. I wandered through those busy streets, familiar ones, now so alien. Those same alleys, traversed together by me and my countrymen, where we sat in dharnas, were pushed and jostled, beaten with lathis, batons and rifle butts by the brute force of a mighty empire. An empire we eventually shook, though countless of our fellow men were slain or jailed or tormented. We lived to see the radiant rays of a promised dawn, a dawn sullied by rivulets of blood, by haunting screams of millions displaced, a dawn eclipsed by dark, ominous clouds. In these same alleys, we rose to rebuild broken bridges, to build new nests, to build a new future. You named me Mahatma, but you gunned me down.
Beautiful.
Today, I revisit these same alleys, hoping to see happiness and cheer. Alas, they look alien and far. I feel lost, bewildered, as my soul writhes to witness innocent blood still being spilled, this time by our own brethren. The hands on the guns are our own now, and my heart gets pierced by bullets once again. The next one is in Hindi, and it is titled Banvas. Banvas 14 साल का भी हो सकता है और 20 का भी, पलों का भी और युगों का भी, राम का भी और सीता का भी, पंचवटी में भी और गृहस्थ कुटी में भी, शारीरिक भी और बौद्धिक भी, तन में भी और मन में भी। बनवास अंतराल है एक युग से दूसरे युग तक का, प्रतीक्षा है समय की करवट की, समीक्षा है जीवन के मर्म की, आस्थाओं के निर्वहन की, कर्तव्यों के चयन की। बनवास प्रतिबद्धता है एक वचन के प्रति, पालन है मर्यादाओं का, चेष्टा है बाधाओं से जूझकर, लक्ष्य को पूजकर मंजिल तक पहुंचने की। बनवास आंतरिक विवशता है, सालों साल उम्मीद की लौ जलाए रखने की। एक तीर्थ यात्रा है, कर्मठता की गीता है, संघर्ष का महाकाव्य है, जीवन को अर्थ देने वाला सुर है, आराध्य है, अपनत्व के पास लौट आने की कामनाओं का पर्याय है, अंधेरों पर उजालों की विजय का अध्याय है, अंधेरों पर उजालों की विजय का अध्याय।
बनवास सबके बीच में भी रह के हो सकता है और अकेले भी हो सकता है। सीता का भी बनवास था और राम का भी बनवास था, और हम सब के अंदर भी ये बनवास आता और जाता रहता है। मैं अब आपके सामने अपनी बहुत ख़ास दोस्त, गेस करिए आप लोग, मेरे बहुत सारे दोस्त हैं, सबको आगे मैं खास ही लगाती हूँ, सतबीर जी को बुला रही हूँ।
शुरू में वेयर इज़ मुकुल उनसे अर्ज़ करूँगी कि आपकी हिंदी की पोएम बहुत डीप है, बहुत बढ़िया है, हिंदी में ज़्यादा लिखा करिए। द टाइटल ऑफ माई पोएम इज़ इट टेक्स 25 years टू नो दैट लव इज़ नथिंग। You clutch my hand so tight, as though I'm going to leave you. Trust yourself. There's more power in your love than in your fist. My colorful, beautiful glass bangles may snap and cut through my skin. Then blood will ooze, and you will suck it with your cracked lips, which will also bleed in the process, which will also bleed as they crinkle together in the process. Can it not be love unless your blood tastes my blood? Years will pass and life will go on. The water flowing down that mountain spring would have created a lovely pond in the valley inhabited by swans and toads too, and lovely water lilies. Every day the butterflies in our garden would have swelled on thousands of drops of nectar from the flowers. Flowers would be seeds, seeds would be trees, seasons would have changed, green, amber, gold, and summer flaming red. New blood every moment would have flowed through your veins and mine. When they meet again and kiss and suck the lips, will they taste the same 25 years from now? Maybe they will ask for another 25 to find out whether our blood is still as salty or still as sweet as it is now, or maybe there'll be none left in the veins or under the skin to taste any more. An alluring mistress. Choice is such an alluring mistress, tantalizes with the feeling of power, maybe truth or maybe fantasy, heady with ideas infinite. Tell a child to choose between a square or round or triangle parantha, and he forgets that he was to throw a tantrum and was not going to eat any. Tell a woman to choose between two fantastic, gorgeous dresses, and she forgets that she was to ask you for a diamond today. Ask a man to choose between two pretty damsels, and he thinks he is nothing short of an Indian Raja. Just having a choice is a power, fills you with possibilities. Or choice, you're just another name. Oh choice, you're just another name for Maya, so illusory. Choice, you're just an illusion. You're just an illusion. All of you my age will feel it better. My dear, be there with me. Be there with me when I need the dough. I don't know, but I may just need that extra blow. It is not easy to need the dough. My dear, be there with me when I make our bed. I am weak. I cannot lift the quilts, blankets, and bedspread. My dear, be there with me when I spread the laundry. My arms don't rise so high anymore. I need your help. I'm sorry. My dear, be there with me when I need to sleep. I need you to hug me tight and lull me to sleep. My dear, be there with me when I have to go across. Only you can move the Lord to forgive me.
Now I would be inviting Mandira Ghosh, who is not only a poet, she is a scientist poet. So, I remember some 20 years ago when we used to read poetry together, Kishor always said that science is there in Mandira's poetry so much that you assume that a scientist poet is reading her poems. So with this note, without wasting any further time, I am asking Mandira to read her poems.
Thank you for the awesome introduction to my poetry. In fact, I tried to reach at a point where science meets metaphysics and literature. Though I deviated from that quite some time back and writing more on war and the present situation of the world, but I am still a scientific-minded poem. This poem is Spring 1995. So that time we all were young. And not that we are very old now, but they are Spring 1995. There were rays coming out from the dews in a wet spring morn, color of indigo, purple, and other 5 colors of the vigour through a prism. I met you in blue when the tears of the little mermaid had made the sea saline and the pearls lay on seabed. Where the feathers were heavy, the birds could not fly. They came down to the retina of the Manas Sarovar. In the cold of that Sarovar, the beautiful suffered. Black from the blue, black from the wind and water, to a small pool near my friend's garden, we enjoyed pink necks of the migratory birds. Mistaken route from the Siberia, probably they came down to my friend's garden. Shall we ask them to open a sanctuary? Spring next year, new buildings are coming out near the pool, tall mansions on the spring flowers. No time for friends or spring, no room even for stagnant water to give the birds a home. That is spring. Thank you. Now, spring 2025. This is my latest poem on spring. Now that she is celebrating, all of us are celebrating spring. There are many poems on spring, not so much in English, but too many in Hindi. Hindi, I have read many poems on Hindi, but I am not influenced by that. I have written something on my own. Absolutely different stance. Finally, the spring is here. Once a year you come, not forgetting the pains of summer, of winter and rains throughout the year. Finally, you are here, you the spring. The leaves are near the delta, transforming into green. Over the hills, frozen still, new buds, new blossoms are to arrive till the death of the dreams vanishes and melt afar in the mountains, freezing from the mountains, coming down to earth as spring. And the last one is, this is what I am saying. I have written this particular book, Voices Unveiled, with librarian of India International Center, whose is first and mine is 24th. But her poems are very good, you must read her poems. But right at the moment I am reading my poem. Sunlight on my courtyard. Through the window, for centuries the moon smiled. Now in the hands of man, disasters define. As the nation compete with each other to become superpowers, my country too gets on the same race and speeds up her arms. As the beggar boy searches for alms, his little sisters lie in tattered clothes on streets. Mother in borrowed long dress with visible holes in her dress. Father always on drugs, begs by knocking panes of the car's window panes. On my backyard, nuclear waste is piled. Nukes can blow away myself, beggar, and his father anytime. Still I read stories of Christopher, Johnson, Hilton and John. Memorize European history till the bird diffuses. Tomorrow is my exam. I get up and move towards the same courtyard where the nukes are piled. With a smile I watch, then sunlight on my courtyard.
Dear friends, now I would request Radha to come. राधा के बिना कोई स्प्रिंग नहीं होता. न कृष्ण के लिए न हम लोगों के लिए. तो आप आइए.
It's always a pleasure to read here among fellow poets. I love coming here. I'll read one poem on a public theme and one on a very personal theme, and then if time permits, I'll see. This first poem is called Ceasefire. Ceasefire. Ceasefire, calling for a pause in the gunfire. But will it douse the fire within? If hostages walk free, will hate still hold us hostage in blind tunnels? If carpet bombing halts, will it remove shrapnel lodged in festering old wounds? Will it staunch the grief that bleeds from hearts of the lately bereaved? Have missiles blinded us to mass graves, and exploding shells made us deaf to pain? Will we ever learn to listen, ever really try to understand? Or are we too numb now to think of more than a temporary truce? The personal poem is something that's addressed to my mother, who died of Alzheimer's in March 2011, and it was published today on World Poetry Day. And this poem is for all those who died of Alzheimer's and all those who have felt the devastating effects of dementia, because it affects everybody around. It's called Red Hibiscus. Red Hibiscus. Every day, Ma, in cupped palms you offered a fresh plucked red hibiscus to your God, singing prayers for our souls every day. Until one day the song abandoned you and the hibiscus bloomed unplucked, until, sighing, it shed blood-red petals like scattered droplets of your disintegrating mind. Day by day, slowly, your old self left us, shedding cells of memory like a snake's discarded skin, leaving a vanishing trail of clues to who you once were or might have been. Every day, slowly, you lost your way in the forest of forgetting, knew our faces, yet mistook our names, until one day you saw us as strangers. Old songs lingered longest in your mind's bewildered hive, tuneless crooning affirming you were there, though still lost somewhere in the forest of forgetting. Until one day the music stopped and you turned a deaf ear to our calls, your fragile, helpless hand groping for a grip on the handles of old familiar things, as we too struggled to hold on to the you we knew, holding in desperate hands your frail frame as you forgot, slowly, slowly, day by day, how to see, hear, touch, feel, and pray. Until one day, the day you went away, a red hibiscus bloomed in the garden in blood-red glory, and we knew then where to find you still. We knew then where the lost trail led. So I'll read a short poem. We all write about flowers and gardens and trees. My poem is about weeds. So this poem is about weeds, and it's called Weeds in the Rain. In wet earth, seeds sprout, declaring a will to wildness. No neat garden beds can stop their spread, no manicured lawn their gay abandon, as they run amok across the gardener's well-laid plans. The sky laughs aloud in thunderclaps among the tumbling, tipsy clouds, as rain showers encouragement and lightning flashes illumine the scene of their riotous victory march, the weed's own green revolution. I'll read a poem that I've read at other forums, but I think not here. And it's about my great-grandmother's generation and how they all used to make pan, and that was a whole ritual every day, and it would all be kept in a casket, and through the day it would be consumed, and it was a very important part of the daily lives of the women, making the pan, having it, chewing it, and all the conversation, gossip, and heartbreak that went on around it in the women's private quarters where they lived. And we as children used to marvel at my great-grandmother's pan-making ritual and watch her make the pan. And when she was sleeping in the afternoon, we used to steal the pan and eat it, and then pretend when she woke up that we hadn't eaten the pan. So all those memories are what went into the making of this poem. And it's called The Casket of Secret Stories. It refers to the pandan, which in Bengali we call paner bata. The Casket of Secret Stories. Paner bata, bell metal casket that once held grandmother's gossip, spicy rumors of desire, heartbreak, longing, loss, rolled in lime-smeared pan, betel leaf flavored with shupuri, lobongo, elach, and sometimes a dash of dokta, forbidden tobacco, loaded with sin, mouth-watering ritual, daily rite of chewing with relish upon secret morsels of women's inner lives. In the delicious telling, bright red juice trickling from the mouth, staining tongue and teeth, savoring the covert knowledge of what life felt like in dark corners of the home's secluded inner quarters, what the world on the outside looked like from behind veils, screens, barred windows, and closed courtyards, where women's days began and ended, leaving for posterity this precious closed kasha casket, redolent with the aroma of lost stories.
Now I'm going to invite Mala Shrilal, my bestie. When I met Mala for the first time, we realized that we could talk, A good conversation can only happen when a soul connects with a soul. So that's why I call her my bestie. I don't know what she will have to say about me. So Mala is going to read her poems. With Mala, this session will come to an end. After that, I request all of you with folded hands. Meeta Pandit has come all the way from Bombay, and we are doing an experiment. I would read a small poem, she would sing. After just take a word from there and sing. So please, 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 aap log jayega mat.
Session is truly a Setu, a bridge across languages, across continents. Thank you so much. The first poem, and I'm going to read, actually takes me back to what Mridula Garg mentioned. And this is about the COVID times and the migrant workers, and how we sat helplessly looking at the news and wondering about it. So this is especially for Mridula. The woman migrant worker. Jobless and with families to feed, the migrant workers trudged towards a mirage called home. Did a woman choose when her man decided to walk? From Nashik to Satna was 1,000 kilometers. Shakuntala's journey, her womb ripened by 9 months, was not anyone's concern. Birth is destined by the stars, they said. The mother's shrieks of pain by the roadside took none by surprise. Touching Mother Earth and believing in her God, Shakuntala took an interval in the long walk home
a newborn joined the walk a few hours later. The mother's crumpled womb was not anyone's concern. It's a poem that's actually based on a news story, which many of you would remember. The second poem that I'm reading is of a very different tenor. It's called Easter Lilies in an Empty Home. And we see in many cities, this one is located in Jaipur, the old houses which nobody inhabits, the next generation has gone away. But the gardens bloom despite nobody quite tending. And because this is a festival dedicated to Vasant, this one is the poem that I chose, and it's called Easter Lilies in an Empty Home. Come, they call out. It's the season of forgiveness. 100 lilies stand tall, renewed by the magic of seasons. The pink stripes may be scars from yesteryear. The white streaks are healing balm to be washed by the dew. The supple leaves, flat and curved, cradle the flowers that have no other family, but they squabble like siblings, maybe 3 lilies on a stem, pushing for space. They calmly grace the garden of a silent home, the owners still alive only in obituaries. The lilies don't worry on that count. Buried bulbs know they will creep upwards in season because life's renewal is a beautiful certainty. Beautiful. And I'll read one last one. My interest in mythology, and particularly in revisiting the stories of the so-called marginalized women and trying to look at their story in a different way. So this is a poem called Manthara Dasi. Could I close my ears to those barbs? Kubra, hunchback, shame, oh shame. Crooked, so I was born. The ugliest of women where beauty is praised, mocked, derided as Kujo, as though I bore a crooked soul. Yet, I loved. Like a mother, I loved Kekai and desired the best for her. Kingdom, fame, wealth, and love, a perennial cornucopia. She found it too, marrying Dashrath. I wanted more for her, the supreme power of Queen Mother. The hunchback's wisdom, observation, acuteness didn't fail me, and Kekai, the obedient daughter, asked for boons, kingdom for Bharat and Ram's exile. Oh horror! The sublime dream turned into infernal curse. People pelted stones on my back, shouting, Kubra, Kujo. My daughter, she shut her door against me. I slunk into a hovel to save my life. I slept among worms and putrid soil, bereft of care or sympathy, hatred, reviled for my ugliness. What wrong did I do in protecting my child? Doesn't every mother dream of a princess, a queen?